everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. It is just one day before St. Patrick's Day, which also means it's one day away from Creature Feature Weekend. So before we even dive into this week's episode, let's just really quickly say, hey, you should be at Creature Feature Weekend. You should come by our table. You should say hi. We probably have a panel. If you want to know if we have a panel, I would check our social medias to find out for sure. And you should just come and hang out and have a good time.
If you come on St. Paddy's Day, Friday night, it's the what's the hotel? It's in Gettysburg.
With the Wyndham.
Yes, is the Wyndham. Get there
Hardly know
early because I am making vegan corned beef Reubens.
Dude,
There are going to be little sandwiches for everybody who comes by the table until they're gone. So come see us, get some free food, get crazy on St. Paddy's
until Kyle shows up, because he might eat them all.
Yeah, he might
So
no,
careful.
on all of those. Look, I'm still trying to figure out. This will be like a week before game plan anyway. But like, obviously, want to know when y'all are going to be there. Maybe we hang out before the floor opens up and have to like lose our fucking minds trying to sell. I don't know.
We like friends or something.
We can hang out, record some episodes, go for a swim. I don't know. Anyway, so we are here talking about the Leprechaun. We've done 2 of these already. We've done part 3 and we've done part 4.
Oh, I missed In Space. Bummer.
Dude, you didn't miss anything.
Missed nothing.
Brian pick that?
Brian picked that one, and Brian almost was going to join us for this one. Low key we were having a conversation on if he could pull it off.
Just
he
don't
loves
tell
these
me.
Movies.
Don't tell me anymore because I just get sad.
Don't go breaking Scott's heart.
But I still want us to do part 2 because part 2 has my favorite Leprechaun kill. And I'm saying that...
Wait, is part 2 the one that's in Vegas? Or is it
No, that's
City?
part 3. We've done part 3 already in Vegas.
Oh, that's right. I can't remember after fucking 400
part
episodes.
Part 2 has this amazing kill where someone wishes for a pot of gold.
Oh, yeah.
And it grows inside of his stomach, and then he has to be sliced open to get the pot of gold out of his stomach.
It's the gold, baby!
That's when they're like, ooh, the Leprechaun can do some Wishmaster shit.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest thing that this movie's fucking missing, because boy, have I never been so bored at watching people die in a horror movie quite like watching the first Leprechaun.
This happens to me every time I choose to watch Leprechaun, which is once every 5 years, but it's got to be. Like, I tried to figure it out. And maybe even more years than that. But I must have watched this movie. This must be my 4th time watching it. You know what I mean? Like, I must have seen this movie so many fucking times because as the kills, as boring as they were, would come up, I'd be like, oh, yes, that. Oh, yes,
The only thing I remember about this movie is the pogo stick kill. Every single time. It's literally the only part I remember.
I thought that was in 3. So, like, I didn't even remember Jen Aniston's shorts, which is surprising to me.
Oh, man, those shorts are just
I tried to get
icon.
There they are.
How old is her character supposed to be in this movie? Because
16 going on 29.
I was gonna say because this is literally a year. This came out the same year that Friends debuts on television, where she is at least playing 24 in Friends. Mm-hmm. I feel like she's supposed to be like 17 or 18 in this movie.
I want to say 18 or 19. I think she's out of high school.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is wildly the wrong casting age-wise for whatever this character is supposed to be.
Dude, every character is the wrong casting age demographic-wise. It's like they tried to do the thing that you did in 86, 87, and it does not work in 93, and 92, 93. It doesn't. Like, this movie feels 7 years too late.
Do you think that it would work better, right? Let's say that Jennifer Aniston is a high school senior or college freshman, and we're seeing her at school surrounded by a bunch of other 24, 25-year-olds playing that same age demographic. It's got to work better than when she is isolated from any other character close to her age. So the whole time you're looking at her, you're like, there is no fucking way. You are supposed to be the age that you're trying to convince us that she is.
No, yeah, there's nothing that has me buy into this movie from the jump when they literally make up Leprechaun lore to my face. I had to look up. I was like, is there a connection between the 4-leaf clover and the Leprechaun? And there's not. I had no idea.
As someone who has watched more Leprechaun movies than he should have. I haven't watched as many as Robert Bacon and Nate Lopez of 91 Donkey Lane, who watched every single one of them to do the definitive rankings.
God rest their souls. They're dead now.
The lore from one movie to the next is completely different. There is, I have never seen a franchise with less continuity.
Which is crazy because we forgive a lot of other things, but for some reason I don't fucking forgive Leprechaun. I don't like him. I don't like it. I don't like the movies.
Well, because it's just like so one of the things about this movie was that this was Trimark's first in-house production, right? They had like gone around buying up movies for years. This was the first time they're like, we're going to make our own movie. We're going to have $1 million budget and we're going to see like what happens with it. And they made 8 times their budget on this thing coming out in theaters.
I'll give them that. It's decent for $1 million.
Yeah, and that's. But I think that this feels every piece of its budget. Like I just see corners cut at every fucking turn in this movie.
Don't you guys find that charming? I found that'd be the most charming part of this fucking movie.
No, I'll tell you the most charming part about this entire movie is honestly the very end of the movie where we get like the leprechaun skeleton puppet coming out of the well for a couple seconds. Yeah. Highlight of the whole film every single time. When I'm thinking, man, we should do Leprechaun for the podcast, I'm thinking of Pogo Stick Kill and that puppet. And then I'm like, the rest of it's got to be pretty good, right? And then
the rest of it's a black hole.
So I wrote down the note. I totally forgot about the opening of this movie. We were supposed to record this a week ago. I looked at that note and I thought, what's the opening of this movie? Because it shows us like 10 years prior how the leprechaun got captured by the previous owner of the house, which is like details I don't fucking need.
Don't need it. Don't.
I had to pad for time, guys.
Just let them find a leprechaun in the basement. I don't need the other stuff.
Did we need to know how the troll got into the basement and troll? No. We just found a troll down there.
There's a troll.
What was that noise? What was that noise?
I only got a little thirsty because I saw Scott sipping on a little something over there. So I want to see what Scott had going on because he's been keeping it off camera.
I got me a Guinness.
Yes,
I wanted it in cans, but they didn't have it in cans, so I went with bottles, which they just don't taste as good.
They don't. I was gonna do a Guinness, but then I was scavenging in the back cooler, and I found one called New Gold.
I want new gold.
I want me new gold.
Yeah.
I'm not glad we're talking about this, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you too.
This is the thing: is that the leprechaun should have just been fine with 99 pieces of gold and let his little ass gold penny just exist.
Yeah, because he's kissing those coins all goddamn day. You really want to kiss the coin that came out of Ozzy's butthole?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
like
fucking Francis.
So really, what should have happened is that they could have just done Leprechaun 2. It would have taken 5 minutes. They could have done a short. It could have literally been the leprechaun skeleton climbing through the sewers the next day, looking for his 100th piece of gold, roll credits.
Yeah.
That's the movie. That's the series. You can't go up from there.
You know how the ongoing joke on this podcast and pretty much throughout my life is how like overly empathetic and emotional I can be?
Oh, how do we feel?
I'm watching this movie.
Really?
I'm watching this movie, and I'm just like, this movie's stupid. This movie sucks. This movie's so bad. And then we get to the end of the movie, and Ozzy's like, I did good. And he's like, you did real good, Ozzy. And I literally got a single tear.
Was this right? Oh, no. I was about to say, was that right after you finished watching The Love Witch on Valentine's Day alone?
No. I watched this a week ago. But no, I was just like, how the fuck am I this pathetic that, like, them just giving Ozzy affirming comments is like
mice and men.
Dude. He is I'm telling you again, he is the worst caricature of the type of person they wanted to play. Like all of these people play the worst version of the stereotype in which they are cast. And he sucks.
He's
the
terrible.
Kid was bad. So Ozzy was bad. He ain't no Larry Drake. Oh,
Nathan is the pseudo boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
The handsome painter.
How long? Yeah. How long have they known each other? 36 hours tops.
Total, absolutely. No, I'm thinking it's more like 18. I think that this is a day in the life movie, which would have totally been my shit back in 1999. But I digress. He gives like serious libertarian vibes because he says like, she says she's vegetarian, and I'm like, fuck yeah, vegetarianism in 1993 was pretty out there, but it's not a good look because Jennifer Aniston is playing a complete idiot of a character, so it's really just for them to punch down on vegetarianism. And then he is like, well, yeah, but you don't eat meat, but your shoes are made out of dead cow. And so she's like a hypocrite because she's like wearing leather on some level, but vegetarians aren't vegans. Like, vegetarianism is a diet, veganism is a diet and a lifestyle. And so it's like, I understand that we're really 30 years later, things have become much more crystallized as far as like the cultural understanding of these worldviews, but
the ability to understand them at least. So
yeah,
fuck
like
up that bad.
we're still the brunt of jokes. It's just like not quite so flippant, unless you're on Reddit. But I mean, he sucks. He's like he does not respect women.
No.
She is like a caricature of a 1990s vegetarian, but she's also only vegetarian because she like wants to drink mineral water. I don't know. I mean, it's like
it's very
city girl
1993's version of that lifestyle as well, just in general.
It's just
it's a classist vegetarianism, like
yes,
is what
exactly.
it feels like. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I do have to read this real quick. I did not catch this on first viewing of the Wikipedia page. Leading up to the film's release, Trimark engaged in an aggressive marketing campaign partnered by the National Basketball Association and the American Stock Exchange.
What?
After failing to secure deals with either corporate headquarters and individual franchises like Domino's Pizza and Subway. So, like,
can you imagine the fucking Leprechaun selling you a sandwich?
I can. Of all properties, horror properties that are, but him and Chucky. I think Chucky maybe can do a little bit more than Leprechaun for me. But like, have we had this conversation about the ranking of fast food toys? How McDonald's always had the best ones.
No,
Burger
but it's
King,
true.
Wendy's, Taco Bell. Like, Leprechaun is the Taco Bell toy to the Child's Play McDonald's toy.
So I'm gonna interject here. I mostly agree with you, but so there is a fantastic YouTube video that I forget which channel it is. It's either Yesterworld or Defunct Land. They're both very great YouTube channels, all about like forgotten amusement park rides and movie tie-ins and stuff. They do amazing like 30-40 minute deep dive docus on this. They did a docu about Burger King, McDonald's, and Disney. And I'm not sure if you know that whole story, but I believe, I could be wrong, I can't remember which one it is. I think it started with McDonald's had exclusive rights to Disney toys for promotional value. Then Oliver and Company came out. McDonald's put out all this money into these Oliver and Company toys, and then that movie bombed. Yeah. So they were like, you know what, Disney, you're a fucking sinking ship. And they like they cut their contract, right? Yeah. So Burger King swings in and signs Disney to, I think it was a 10-year contract. And in the 10 years that McDonald's had Disney as their exclusive client was Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, like all of the biggest Disney franchises. So I think sometimes people think, yeah, McDonald's had all those great Disney toys, but the best Disney toys actually came under the Burger King
and the
era
cups.
Yeah,
let's not forget the plastic cups
were amazing. And I want to say, was Burger King the one that also did for one of the worst movies of all time, the Batman and Robin little ice mugs that you could take out of the store? Like, dude.
Yeah,
man.
No, they killed it in the cup game for sure. McDonald's did sell you VHS tapes, which I always appreciated.
I think that's where I got Five-O Goes West, was from my McDonald's.
Fucking Fievel. Oh my God.
But then then fucking Taco Bell had Kazam, so it's like
That's
what
true.
are you gonna fucking do?
Look, when you're Taco Bell or Wendy's, you're just like scratching.
Any IP will do, dude. Because I also have a Taco Bell toy
Yeah,
that
it's
was
shocking
like two
that I couldn't
animals
get
that,
little Puppet Master toys from Wendy's because it feels like that's like where they were getting at a certain point. They're like, we could sell the demonic toys in the kids' meals.
Yeah. But I couldn't imagine. I
I
if
never
Leprechaun
wanted that until now.
if Leprechaun like did like an NBA promo for like a playoff game. Like,
Yeah, with
could
Warwick
you
Davis like jumping and flipping through the air.
Oh
Look,
my god,
we're talking about
pre-Space Jam. Like
Yeah.
we're talking like it'd be amazing.
We're absolutely talking about the time period where it was not out of the norm for fucking Chucky and RoboCop to show up in the middle of a WCW wrestling
Right.
event. Like,
Correct.
this could have happened. I almost wonder.
Capitalism at its
I
finest.
would love to look into it. I wonder if they put the Leprechaun in the stand similar to like the promotion for Smile, where they were just
No
having
way.
actors stand behind like the batting cages.
on the shoulder, on somebody's shoulders.
My only
No, they put
so
him in the stands, Matt, but you can't see him. because
They
he's-
did
he's in the
it. They
front row.
wasted
He's
all their
sitting
money.
right there next to like Jack Nicholson. Like, but, but-
Straight up courtside. Yeah,
courtside
beautiful.
at the Lakers game.
Yeah.
But I also just like in my mind, I'm thinking about like my first exposure to Leprechaun, and I definitely remember the trailers. Like I remember seeing the
They were
trailers on
everywhere.
television
Yeah.
all the time. But my big connection was when Wayne's World 2 came out.
Okay.
And in Wayne's World 2, I'm not sure if you remember this. MTV, first of all, MTV did a huge promotion for Wayne's World 2 where they had like Wayne and Garth hosting like a bunch of different like music videos or whatever. But in Wayne's World 2, there's this whole subplot that Garth is terrified of the Leprechaun. And it would be like Wayne showing him like different supermodels. And he's like, all right, Garth, I need you to tell me how you're feeling about Cindy Crawford. He's like, oh, swing or whatever. And then he's like, and I'm the Leprechaun. And it would just be like the Leprechaun's face. And they kept doing it on MTV to promote Wayne's World 2. So before I ever saw the movie Wayne's World 2, I knew of the Leprechaun from Wayne just holding up this scary picture to Garth.
fucking
It's
weird
dude, the
entrance.
90s
Strange,
are
man.
chaos. It is a
Chaos.
decade
It's chaos.
of advertising chaos.
I got a question for you guys. I don't remember what podcast it was, but a much bigger podcast than us. I
Impossible.
want to say it was This American Life, maybe. I mean, a
Oh,
big fucking podcast.
number 2 to our number 3. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the
Definitive ranking.
Yeah, but the sizing there is orders of magnitude.
It's Serial, This American Life, Horror Movie
Horror
Night,
Movie Night.
WTF with Mark Maron. Like, it's just how
Yep.
it works.
That's our wish if we ever found a fucking leprechaun. Not to be
My
number
wish
one,
is also
to
for
be
Joe
number
Rogan
three.
to not be in the top 4 in general.
Yeah.
Well,
No
can we just
shit.
take his spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
but anyway.
slot us in there.
Listen, there was this. I'm pretty sure it was This American Life. There was an episode, this story about this kid who, or this class that got shown Leprechaun on St. Patrick's Day of like 1994 or something like that. They were 8. It was so traumatizing. Some of the kids like couldn't go to school, and a bunch of the parents and like the teacher like turned on the movie and left and was hanging out in the lounge for like an hour.
They thought it was Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
No, this was on purpose.
Oh,
And the teacher
fuck.
came back and was admonishing the kids, being like, fucking grow a pair, basically. Yeah, I think it was this school in LA. And there was this whole big hullabaloo because a bunch of the parents of the scared kids, it became a national spotlight thing because a bunch of the kids were fucking traumatized by it with good reason when you're like 8 years old or less.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it was that all these teachers and students and the parents of these students were being like, oh, those kids are fucking babies. And it became this whole thing.
What?
And I mean, like, if Matt is empathetic to Francis being told he's a good boy at the end of this, I was feeling empathetic to those poor children who were traumatized and then, like bullied to fucking death by their classmates and the parents of their classmates being like, it's just a movie, fuck you.
No,
man,
I
fuck
completely
1994.
fuck them. And then to get over that trauma and then realize how bad of a movie Leprechaun actually is has got to be on another level.
Yeah, that's just
completely
insult
awful.
and injury right there.
It's just like, damn, dude, I have 20 years of therapy for Leprechaun.
I could have made Leprechaun and made it better with the money I gave to fucking therapists.
Absolutely. Origins.
I went to Google it to try to find the story.
Get
and
Blumhouse on the phone.
So, did you know in 2012, a similar thing happened in Houston where a teacher showed her 5th grade elementary school class Insidious.
What the? That's even worse.
And they're like, her reasoning, I guess, was like, well, it's PG-13. Like, how bad could it have been? But
It's pretty
there's
fucking
a couple
horrifying.
Reddit posts that
Why
time in
hasn't anybody watched these
1993 when
movies
Leprechaun
before?
was shown to 2nd graders at Browning.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's
boy.
but wow. All right. And yeah, that's This American Life link is
That's
what that leads
devastating.
to. Jesus, I'm gonna have to check out This American Life episode though.
Well, don't give them that many more numbers because, like,
no,
What's the
no.
drop in that bucket?
They're already above us. If it was WTF, it'd be different.
Matt's gonna listen to us twice as much just to make it even.
Just to make it, even it out. The only other notes that I had written down was one: the Leprechaun's only superpower in this whole movie is doing incredible impressions. Like his ability to mimic voices pitch perfect is second to none. And I talked about, like, I love the Leprechaun meltdown at the end. They shoot this 4-leaf clover in his mouth. He like has this full skeletal meltdown. But then there's this great dumb fake out where it's like, all right, everything's okay. And then, like, the skeleton pops up again. He's just like, my God! And they just run and punch him, and then it's over again. Like,
It's a real The Crush moment.
yeah, like, it's so like unnecessary. Like, it's the cheapest of cheap scares.
But
I
this
can
movie is
possibly
totally
imagine.
unnecessary. Like, this whole fucking franchise is unnecessary. I love you, Warwick Davis. I love you so much. But this shit is awful.
Yeah.
so bad.
The best thing that came from the entire franchise is the theme song.
Yeah.
I know you guys know how much I love the theme song because I did one of my favorite covers in my horrors series is the Leprechaun theme. It just is.
Yeah.
It was one of the hardest things to transcribe because no one had MIDI versions of that on the internet. I had to do that all by ear. I'm sure it's not perfect. It wasn't just the fact that it went from 3/4 to 4/4 in the dumbest fucking ways that when I was transcribing it, I was like, I was literally like pounding my hand on the table being like, how does this work? I remember looking at Megan like last year when I was transcribing and I was like, this is the dumbest fucking song I've ever transcribed.
Yeah.
And I've transcribed a lot. I think that the Leprechaun theme is only second to one other theme that I've done, which was Rosemary's Baby, which is just, it had this atonic piano like sub melody, like a counter melody in it that took me days to figure out because it just makes no sense.
Like, it's essential as an essential
I listen to
piece
it
of
now
the
and I'm
whole
like,
thing, yeah.
I'm so glad because I love that cover. But
Yeah.
It's like when I think to some of my other covers that were easy, I like them, but I don't love them like I love the ones that just pissed me off because I had such a hard time transcribing them.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
None of us picked this.
I was going to say, so none of us picked this. I'm going to say, Scott, you go
Brian.
first, only because I picked last week's and Kyle picked next week's. So you seem like the most logical
that is very,
person.
very sweet of you because I'm taking Gremlins as my double feature strictly due to the body melt, the diminutive body melt at the end of both Spike and Leprechaun.
nice.
I mean, it could be the same movie. They're both that quality, both so high quality.
Kyle, I'm going to let you go first, but I'm
Okay.
very afraid you're going to take what is the proper answer to this.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to go Child's Play 2.
Okay.
I did have one other one, and I
Yeah.
think that Matt actually might have
Did
one,
we
but-
all go for the diminutive body melts?
Well, so there's a little body melt, and then at the same time, it's like Child's Play and Chucky. I wouldn't want to watch the first one after Leprechaun. I'd want to watch like a sequel, next step of something, but certainly not Leprechaun 2. So I want to watch something better, Child's Play 2.
No, you want to save that for next St. Patrick's Day episode.
Exactly. One a year from here on out until I'm dead.
So I wrote this down before I saw this, and I just want to stress that. I wrote down Critters.
Oh.
And then I immediately read that the writer of the movie based the movie around Critters. That's why it's at a farm. That's why it's a small cast. That's why it's like a tiny creature wreaking havoc in like the middle of nowhere at a farmhouse. Like, it is the plot of Critters, just like giving the critters the ability to speak. Turns out, mistake.
That's why I've watched Critters all of 3/4 of one time.
Yeah. Talk about, I would say Critters and Leprechaun both fall into a similar category of really enjoy almost any of the sequels more than the movie that started it all.
Sometimes you got to break a couple eggs.
You do.
Right.
You do. Crate eggs. All right. So, Scott, what have you watched, read, listened to, etc., that you want to talk to us about?
Well, I already talked about my cover of the Leprechaun theme, so I guess that's out of the bag. But we can pad the episode with that at the end. But Megan and I watched the cutest fucking rom-com, guys. It is a Netflix movie, I think.
Our
Netflix?
Place, My
Your
Place,
Place
or
or
Yours?
Mine? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard a lot of... I follow a lot of filmmaker TikToks now, like film review TikToks now. And the one guy that I really like, Cinema Joe, I'll give a shout out to him, every month does like a... hey, here's what you should or should not watch. And that and another rom-com called Somebody That I Used to Know came out on the exact same day. And he was like, Your Place or Mine is the one to watch. He's like, Your Place or Mine is so delightful.
Yeah, it's super, super cute. And the reason why... So Megan loves it because Megan understands... I mean, she's watched so many rom-coms. Like,
yes.
That's kind
her
of
and
like
I text
her
about
slasher.
that occasionally.
Okay, yeah. Like, well, that's what I'm saying. Is like... If we're talking about tropiness in like genre film, Your Place or Mine is kind of like the Tucker and Dale of rom-coms. You know, it gives you exactly what you're expecting, but it does it in a really entertaining way. I mean, it's telegraphed. You know exactly what's going to happen. And I think that everything except for the last 5 minutes was perfect. I mean, my only criticism is how they tied up the story, which, I mean, you know exactly what's going to happen. It's just a matter of how they're writing.
And that's
it.
You know,
it's a 99% perfect movie for me.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the case with pretty much every rom-com. Is like, I think that every rom-com, any movie dealing with love in general, teen flicks have this same issue. Is that there's always this like, they're all going to end in the same moment. There's a moment where they're not together, and then there's the moment of forgiveness where they get back together.
Yep.
Or like the thing that I always I love it personally as a film viewer, but I realize is like a cliche that very rarely makes sense. Are just recently for Christmas 365 for Valentine's Day, we put out Love Actually. And like the end of Love Actually, everybody's at the airport. Like every single character's at,
fucking hate that part about that movie, and I love that movie.
There's like this element of like in these movies where it's like, well, we need every single character that you've seen for the last hour and a half for some reason be in the same location to see the loving couple kiss. Like,
and then they clap.
Yeah, like, you know? It's a very cliched thing. I'm gonna jump in here actually. I'm gonna do a very short review and then a slightly longer but still short review. Today I just watched a movie that I think Scott and Brian were both underwhelmed by. I enjoyed it a little bit more than I think either of them did, which was The Menu. But I think similarly, I also think The Menu really kind of rushes to the finish line in the last like 5-10 minutes of that movie after like building for so long.
A lot of build up. And I was super disappointed. Yeah, I think that was the thing about it for me, is that I knew pretty much everything that was going to happen, and it's just a matter of like, how are you going to hit those beats? And they really the quote unquote twist that you're talking about. Maybe it's just because I watched so much for the show and have in my life. I just was like really like meh, and I
was pleasantly surprised because I genuinely thought everything that I stayed away from any information about the movie. I thought that it was going to be way more of like a cannibal movie mixed with something like The Platform, where it was like they were eating each other eventually. So finding out that it was a little bit more than that, I was like, okay, I think his motive doesn't make any sense. Ultimately,
he's still a prick.
Yeah, but I I mean, I also just like, look, I'll watch Anna Taylor-Joy for an hour and a half. I'm not going to complain about that. That's not a problem for me. It was good, but it could have been great. Speaking of something that was pretty great, dropped on Netflix maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, The Pez Outlaw. Did either of you see this weird doc?
No, I've seen the trailer for
to
it.
me. There's something. I mean, you and I have a whole big Venn diagram, but this is the outlier here.
Yeah. So this is a delightful documentary. It's so
What's
low
it called
stakes.
again?
The Pez Outlaw.
Okay.
And it is about a guy who is like one of us. He is a diehard collector.
Is there? I'm sorry, Matt. Is there a particular documentarian who did this, or
genuinely don't know. I don't know who the person was behind this.
I couldn't remember if there was a. I've seen the trailer.
This wasn't like Michael Moore Presents. Like, whoever made this, it's like a small guy.
Okay.
But it's about this dude who's like a diehard collector, and he at least in the documentary claims that he is the reason why like cereal box top stuff is limited to one per household, because he would just buy so much cereal and he would mail in these box tops and get like hundreds of these toys that you could get for mailing in to the cereal company, and then would like go to conventions and sell them.
How old is he?
He's like in his 60s or 70s.
Okay.
At this point. So like, but he shows like, he's like, let me take you to the basement, and he's got all of these vintage cereal boxes. He's like, I just think that they were cool. I wanted to collect them. He's like, here's like this special like 1 year only Christmas cereal box that like Fruity Pebbles put out. Like it was like,
did he eat them too?
Yeah, he finished the cereal and then just like kept the box on like storage in his house.
I can accept this now.
Does he have teeth? Does he have teeth?
He basically talks about like how now he can't send these cereal box tops in. Like his business is kind of winding down. So he's like, I've got enough to sell for one last convention, and I see this woman selling these rare Pez dispensers, and I become obsessed with them. And I ask her, like, where did she get her collection? And she's basically like, you have to go to Europe to where the manufacturer is. So he flies to Europe and meets with the manufacturers, and is just like this passionate collector of shit. So they're like, here's a couple of all of the Pez dispensers that we've offered to the United States, but they have turned down because they thought no one would buy them. So he like takes all those home and he starts selling them, and they start to make a lot of money. And then he gets a little too big for his britches and starts advertising a website where you can buy directly from him. Pez finds out. Now Pez starts, whenever he gets rare Pez's, they immediately buy them from Europe and start selling them for $1.99, so that he's like wasted air. Like it is just like following this cat and mouse game between like a dude who's just like doing this weird passion thing, but how he's literally on the radar at Pez corporate this whole time. It is so charming because it's kind of like watching one of my favorite docs, King of Kong. The stakes are so low. Like the stakes, like you're not like stressed out. There's no end of the world situation that's going to come from this. There is like a fairly defined like who you're rooting for, who you don't want to see succeed, and you do end up wanting the Pez Outlaw to win over the Pez Corporation. But like, it's just like, it's such a simple, low stakes, feel good story where you're just like, I just enjoy this. This is so dumb. It feels like a sitcom plot line that somehow happened in real life.
Yeah.
So Pez Outlaw, I would recommend it over The Menu, actually. And then Kyle.
Quick advertisement for Connecticut. We have the Pez Museum,
yes,
the Pez
you do.
Visitor Center. And then we also have this place called the Barker Museum, which was a man who collected any toy or promo item connected to popular culture, which I know is like a super, super vague way to describe anything, but this dude literally collected anything that advertised anything. So I don't think it's there anymore, but in Baltimore, right outside of Inner Harbor, for like maybe 2 or 3 years, there was like a museum like that where it was like you paid $5, you walked in, and it was like this dude's like vintage toy collection behind glass. Yeah, on par with our episode today, I watched The Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh,
it's fine. But I want to talk about Hanging Heart, which was a slasher that was included in the Homegrown Horrors box set of Volume 2.
Hanging Heart. Is it new? Is it old? What is it?
It's old. It's an old 80s slasher that is Homoerotic is an understatement. It is fucking gay in the best
1983.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about a man who takes part in a surrealist theater group, and then the lovers that he takes, they are hung with stockings, and his lawyer kind of takes him under his wing to try to help him, but then clearly they're in love, or the lawyer's in love with the perpetrator, and then there's like a guy who looks exactly like him who is like a drug addict and batshit insane, and they're thinking that he's killing the people, but it is bizarro land.
This sounds insane.
Oh my god, it is like, I loved it. I loved it. I love that, and it did. I mean, it really felt like it felt like a gay soft core at some points, but it was utilized.
Do you see hard-ons, or is it?
Do you see dick?
I don't feel like you see. You're not going to see.
I actually don't think that you see hard-on, but you see a lot of. You see a lot of well-lit, hairy top thigh, like all the way up to like to whitey tighties. I will say that there's some problematic reasonings for the homosexuality or the homoeroticism that is a little off-putting to me. There is like an association with it being due to sexual abuse, which was unfortunate, but at the same time, seeing a lens that kind of showed something. It was beautifully shot and kind of like surreally shot, which was interesting. And you just don't see emphasis on male gaze, Gaze.
Yeah, I got you.
yeah. I think everybody, you got it. And I'm sorry, just to loop back to the Banshees of Inisherin, it is good. It is. I
love how we just got like you glossed right over that to get to the soft core.
I forgot that my whole point was to talk about Banshees of Inisherin, and then I looked at my letterbox and I was like, oh, but I gotta fucking mention Hanging Heart, and I hope that as Vinegar Syndrome does in time, it maybe comes on Tubi or something of the sort, or if somebody, I mean, this Homegrown Horrors box set has some cool other shit on there, but Hanging Heart was a standout. But it's just, if you're looking for a slasher / maybe kind of like, it is kind of more of like a crime thriller than a slasher. It's almost like kind of like giallo-ish more than slasher, but it kind of gets brutal. It kind of gets weird. It's sexy and erotic, but then like off-putting. And I thought it was lovely. Banshees of Inisherin, I understand why it's nominated. Martin McDonough is great. I preferred his other work, like Seven Psychopaths and Three Billboards, over this. But as a playwright and as somebody who wants to like emphasize these character dramas, it's lovely and it's beautiful to look at. Colin Farrell is fucking amazing.
Highly underrated. And I wanted to add one. I mean, Colin Farrell, highly underrated. I've said this. I'll say this until I'm blue in the face on this show.
Yeah.
But I wanted
another
to add,
example of it.
For Hanging Heart, there's a movie that I have some friends who are working on, and it's based. I mean, I believe that it's a Chicago or a Cleveland-based writer-director production company. But the movie is called. It's a gay slasher movie called Meat the Movie, MEAT, and nice. It's like a gay dance club killer. And I don't know if it's, or they, I don't know anything about the movie. I've just seen stills from like the production sets and stuff like that. But it's, the killer is wearing the most amazing outfit. It's like kind of like a gimp mask, but it's completely covering their face. But then it's got like spikes on it. So it's like a spiked head covering, and there's spikes all over them. And then they've got like the big Bowie knife. But I mean, it just seems like if they can do what they want with it, I feel like it could get a serious cult following just due to the fact that the fucking costume is so cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's
I
awesome.
can't wait
you
to
guys
see it.
You guys send me a picture of it because
I want to see what that. I want to see that too.
I'm eager to meet.
There you go. Guys, big news.
What's that?
We're finally out of this fucking time warp of 1993 movies starting next week. We finally escaped the spiral that we found ourselves in for the last 2 straight months. So stay tuned to see what movie Kyle picked to save us from the grasp.
Oh, it's my fault?
Yeah,
Shit.
of 30 years ago. And we'll be back with more Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.